gonna be. The issue of this is I think Judge McClellan and Conkin, and maybe Toohey is over in the city hall, the old city hall.
Only Judge McClellan.
Huh?
Only Judge McClellan.
Oh, is it Judge McClellan?
Yeah.
I didn't know Toohey, I thought, okay.
And
What they're
Judge,
trying to do is they're trying to expand the Justice Center that the county and the city built back in the 90s, I believe, when it was, late 80s. Trying to expand on the Kingsport Justice Center and trying to move all the courts over there. One for security issues of getting the judges over there, to run the court system, be a little bit more efficient. They're going to change the design of the front of the facility to limit access into the building. It used to be the 911 center was in there. And they built out a new 911 center out on Sullivan Street. So that opened up a lot of space. So they've basically gone in what they've had and redesigned it, reconfigured it to meet all the different needs, and plus putting the judges in there. Kingsport is ready to move. They've got their plans ready. They've worked with the county staff to get their input into the plan. They spent the $600,000 in the planning and design. Kingsport has made the financial commitment to move on this project. They're just asking the county for their part, since we have part ownership in that building. We have a physical responsibility to be part of this improvement. And I think it would be wrong to turn this down. Now, how are we going to fund this? There will probably more than likely have to be general obligation bonds be issued for that, okay? Approving the resolution, all it does saying that we're in the willing to go forward with this project, then the new commission will have to vote on the bonds and the funding of the bonds, okay? So I think it would be good, because what has been done in our tenure is to go ahead and approve this and know that we're going to be moving forward, because there's just a lot of information. Has any of you all seen the plan that they have done showing the design? Okay.
I had it last week for anybody that wanted to look.
Okay. So I would like, if Mr. Chairman, we could recess and let City Manager Chris McCart to come up and answer any questions that the commission may have to help everybody understand how we got here and why we're here today for this.
well, let's, and I'll be happy to do that. I've got a list here, so let's let the commissioners that are on the list ask the sponsor, and then we'll have Chris come up. Chris, if you'd like to come up and just be there to assist the sponsor, it'd be fine. We generally recess, but we'll go ahead and go on with it. Mark, is that, you have questions?
Chris, tell us how long this project has been in the works.
We've probably been in discussion on this particular project for over 4 years. A few years back, we brought in several firms, some experts, especially in jails and public safety, to walk through safety and security issues within the Justice Center. That focused not only on how the public enters, but it also focused on how the judges enter, how the sheriff's deputies, how the police officers for the Kingsport Police Department come in and out of the building, how we release prisoners, how we bring prisoners in. And then we also spent a tremendous amount of time on modernization of the courts. This facility will have 3 courtrooms in it that will be fully modernized. And that is really probably where, outside of the addition that brings some of the offices over from City Hall, the modernization of the courtrooms and the safety and security is the priority for this renovation and addition.
Has the city of Kingsport already issued the bonds for their part?
We have not. We have not. We have paid for design. We're presently wrapping up the construction design process. The city will issue bonds shortly after the first of the calendar year.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. Commissioner Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Larry, this question's for you. I know Mr. Vance is talking about a bond issue there, but is that something we'd have to do this coming year, and what are we looking at as far as a tax increase for this, or how's this gonna be moving forward as a cost to the taxpayers of the county?
Who are you directing the question to?
Larry?
Larry?
Most likely, we would have to go to the bond issue to do this. Funding is not now in debt service that would cover any additional bond issues, so it would require additional funding. That answer your question?
So we'd have to do a bond, we'd have to, and then we'd find out what the tax increase would be passed on to the county?
Yes, sir. It would be, I checked the other day as to what funds would be going right now for, or pre-COVID, I guess. And they stated that it would be, on a 20-year issue, be roughly $70,000 per million, as I remember. I may be mistaken that a little bit, and thought about it a few days, but that's approximately what they said.
So to fund this coming year, we'd probably be looking at how much of a tax increase you think if we pass this tonight?
It wouldn't be a very large tax increase considering Penny brings in $400,000, but I don't have the calculations on that. But
About-
it wouldn't be a very high tax increase.
About a third of a cent. Third of 1 cent.
Mr. Vance made the comment that this had been discussed for a long time. I didn't see any plans, I didn't have any information about it till last month's building committee meeting. And they came up and Kingsport did and gave us a preview on the building committee of what, you know, the drawings and so forth. So, that's the question I have about it. We had the opportunity a while back when we were doing the jail to put all these courts in Bluntville. I'd like to see that 8 million or so that the total was gonna be constructed here in Bluntville with our justice, jail system, justice center. So, anyway, thanks.
Commissioner Blaylock, you're recognized.
Well, here I go again. As a former court reporter, I worked in that courthouse for a long, long time, and it definitely needs work. It definitely needs the money. But since I'm the very last person to be on this, with some of us being on here for the very last time, is it up to us to make the decision this month? Maybe next month when the new commissioners come on, let them decide. I'm just kind of thinking that I'm all for it, but I just don't know that today is the night for me to vote for it. Maybe better for the next group to vote for it and maybe have more information. I don't know. But anyway, I'm for it. I'm not saying against it. I just don't know that I want to vote on it. And my last visit, when I think everybody, all these new people will be coming in, let them kind of help make a decision on this. This is a big decision.
Thank you. Commissioner Aker.
I just want to say, first, when we were looking at the ARPA money and we were bringing up projects, this was brought up and brought to the committee that we were discussing all the different projects to see if there was some utility money or some of that money could be used. So this is something that had come up prior to the decision. At that time, it was decided to not put it with, you know, the ARPA projects. And we did just have, you know, we are finished the design, but it had come to this body, and I think several conversations had happened. I think, you know, the mayor had some meetings, being that these were the courts, the judges have been informed and on board and in discussions for quite a bit. You know, they were not left out of this decision. So there was some information already being talked about, and Ms. Blaylock, in looking at the time, this project has to go forward. I mean, we are moving it forward, and the county, as the mayor said, has 39% ownership of this building. And we're not asking for 39% of the budget to remodel. So, I mean, if you look at the big picture, I think it's a very fair proposal and request, and that we need to maintain what we have, because the timing of this is going to have to continue to move forward. And this committee knows more. I mean, I think it's very, having 10 new people, if I came in the first vote, I think I did, when the first vote as this commission, I mean, we looked at getting resource officers, which was a 2-cent increase. We didn't have all the information on that as a new board. we were asked to vote on it immediately, and it was a tax increase. I would feel more comfortable as an outgoing person here, having the past history of how this committee operated, what type of things we fund, where money comes from, how bonds work, how the penny works, to make this decision instead of throwing this in the laps of people that will be here being sworn in with their family and turn right around and have to make some kind of decision this large. Because I said, I mean, I know we did that when we came in. I would have preferred that the people with the background had made that decision. Answer your question.
Commissioner Ackert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and I'm going to admit, once again, I've never stepped foot in the courthouse over there. I'm going to try to stay out of the court system in this county. I do think we're kind of, it's the funding that, I just want to make sure I understand what I'm voting for. Because it seems like we're kind of splitting this up, with all due respect. We're voting to say we will do 2.6 million, but then we're going to ask the new commission, which some of us are here, to figure out how to fund that 2.6 million.
And they can look at the budget and
Yep.
look at what's best for them and the way it's structured.
And so I was going to ask, I guess, Mr. McCart, so I was thinking about when we did a bond for networks, all the entities, if you remember, is a $4 million bond, 4.4, but Bristol agreed to their portion of the bond, Kingsport agreed to their portion of the bond, Bluff City agreed to their portion of the bond, and Sullivan County agreed to their monetary portion of the bond. So out of this 8.8 million, I'm just kind of confused. Is Kingsport borrowing 6 million and then we're gonna go borrow 2.6 million on a separate bond, or is it one bond and we're gonna kind of split the cost? That's, I mean,
Separate bonds.
There would be two separate bonds.
Okay.
The city of Kingsport would do a general obligation bond for multiple projects, including the Justice Center at the first of the year. The county would, if you move forward with this, would choose to do it at a certain date, and then the dollars would be transferred over to us.
I mean, that's all it. I just do, I think we kind of are talking about outside of both our mouths. We're gonna say, we approve this over here, but you guys over here have to figure out how to pay for it, you know?
And I'm not gonna speak for Mr. Bailey, and he speaks well for himself, but, there's potential for additional bond issues in this next 2 year or two. And so, I don't know if you all will just issue one bond, Chris, but it's not unusual to issue a bond for all your capital needs. And so, I don't think we can predict right now what we're gonna be doing first quarter and the first half of the year. Mark, you're recognized.
Well, passing this resolution tonight just says the intent of doing or going in on the project. Until the funding is decided on how it's going to be funded, that's gonna make the final decision if you're gonna do it going forward. I think we ought to vote for this resolution with the intent that we're in an agreement that we have a responsibility to expand the courthouse in Kingsport. Now, when it comes time to issue the bonds and you have the debt payment, then it comes to the new commissioners will have to make a decision whether they want to raise taxes, they want to cut other things, if there's increased revenues and sales tax or property taxes to pay for that bond. I mean, you got two issues. You got the project approval and then you got the financial issue. And we have done this for years. We have voted for projects in this county just like we did the jail. We voted to borrow money for the jail. We had no idea how much the jail was going to cost. We had no idea how we were going to fund the jail. But we approved the project in content of that's what it's gonna be, what we're gonna go for. That's all we're asking tonight, is the county commission to agree to go along with Kingsport, the $2.6 million commitment. Then the new commission, as all the projects come together, they can decide what they can fund. So Kingsport need an answer. Are they going to need to be moving forward? Is the county in or the county's out? And that's all we're asking for. We're just asking for the county to take a position that we're in an agreement that the Justice Center needs to be renovated, remodeled, and expanded to meet the needs. And then when the finances come, Mr. Bailey will bring it in front of the new commission. So we're not committing anything. We're just basically voting that we're in agreement the project needs to be approved.
Mr. Stanley, you're recognized.
Another thing that, thank you, Chairman, another thing we need to look at is what happened with the jail. The longer we waited, it ended up costing us almost $10 million more because of the price of the material and stuff. So I think the longer you wait on it, that all of these material and stuff could go up even more.
Do you want to be added as a co-sponsor?
Yes.
Can you add Angie as co-sponsor?
Thanks, sir. And I'm gonna kind of piggyback on her question there. If we vote this, like you said, and we're not voting tonight to fund it, if cost goes up, does our responsibility go up in that?
No, sir, what we're asking for is a 2.6 million, and Kingsport will be covering the rest. So if if this is approved tonight and there are increases, then it would be on the city of Kingsport who's managing this project. Because we're putting our money, we're committing, even though we have 39%, as the mayor said, the city is asking for this much commitment from the county. We're not gonna, it's not like we're gonna come back. We put an exact dollar amount on it. Is that correct, Chris?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion? The board open. Cast your vote on the motion for adoption of item number 6. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
21 yes, 1 abstain, 1 no, and 1 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 6 is adopted. Next up, item number 7, Commissioner Starnes. You're recognized on item number 7.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to amend this, where it says resolution to secure Sullivan Middle School. I would like, to say a resolution to approach and negotiate with the BOE, which will be executed by the mayor to possibly purchase Sullivan Middle. There's a civic group in the Sullivan Gardens that would like to, buy our lease, and I think they have approached the, BOE as well. They don't care who gets it as long as they get to use it. They don't want it demolished. I did, talk a little with, Ms. Rafalowski last week or last month. I emailed a few of the board members and never got an answer. There's a lot of history there. It was the first high school in the south end of the county. A lot could be done with that, just like Bluff City here at Blumpville, and I would appreciate your all's vote for that.
Mr. Starnes renews her motion, seconded by Commissioner Calton. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, it appears you're ready to vote. When the board opens, cast your vote on item number 7. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
22 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
Have received the necessary majority, item number 7 is adopted. Next up, item number 8. Commissioner Vance, you're recognized on item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have, Mr. Mays back there, and I'd like to ask him to come up to the podium if anyone has any questions regarding this resolution. This resolution has been in the works for well over 3 months, about looking for a site location in Colonial Heights for an EMS station. So let me tell you where we were at and where we're at today. And looking at, back in the 90s, the Colonial Heights community had an ambulance that served that community for 12-hour days. And the community had came when June Carter was on the county commission back in the late 90s and says, why don't we have an ambulance in our community? We're a large populated area. We came to the county commission. The county commission gave us permission to hire employees and purchase a truck, but we had no station to work out of. So we went to that time to Chief Connor Caldwell, the Kingsport Fire Department, and we, at that point, we asked the Kingsport Fire Department if we could put the ambulance and the crew in there to be able to serve that community, which has been well over 20-some years. As that area grows, we feel that there's going to be a need to increase services in that area involving ambulances. And that ambulance in Colonial Heights covers all the way up to West Ridge. It covers all the way down 81 to the Washington County, Sullivan County line. It covers all the way over to Gray, Eastern Star Road. Covers mostly all of Indians, or all of Colonial Heights, a lot of Rock Springs area. So anyway, Mr. Mays and I had met, and we looked and met with Mayor Venable, and we went and we looked for some property in that area. We have located a piece of property in that area. So where we're at, we talked to the construction company that built the station in the Bluff City and the Sullivan Street. We asked them what they thought the increased cost would be to build an identical station, which is basically, it would have staff 4 people and be room for growth. So we found a piece of land. They originally asked for over $400,000 for the land on Tall Oak and Fort Henry Drive, which we had it appraised. The appraisal come back at $314,000. We had a geotech report done for the land to see the land, if the land was suitable for a 4,550 square foot building on it. It came back saying that the land is suitable, so we've got land that we can use. We reached out to Zane Brooks, that was the excavator that done the excavation of the other stations. He gave us a price for development of that land, which is a little bit increased, about $25,000 increase to site development. So we have a little bit increased cost for site development because of some shallow rock and some heavy rock. So we've done a lot of work on this. We met with the property owners, and the appraisal come back at $314,000, and the lowest we could get them to go down to is $300,000, which is very suitable for that piece of land. I mean, we paid more than that for a little lot up here on 126. So this resolution is to secure and appropriate fundings for the new EMS station, including land acquisition, cost-related construction in Colonial Heights. We put in this resolution $2.6 million. And I knew this would come up. How are we going to pay for this? I knew Todd Broughton was going to ask that. So I always be prepared. I always told my kids when they say, I'm going to the mall and buy clothes, well, what are you going to buy and how much you need, right? And how am I going to pay for it, right? So that's right. So anyway, I met with Mr. Bailey, and something that was discovered in Mr. Bailey and I's conversation was back in 2015, when EMS was put 1 penny on the tax rate. EMS has never spent that whole penny, okay? So we pulled the comptroller's report off. In 2015-2016 budget, EMS at that point was allocated $349,000. they did not spend $235,000. So we found roughly, maybe Mr. Bailey, we're saying between 500,000 and 600,000. His numbers are saying 500, mine saying 646. I took the comptroller's word. So we found about $646,000 to purchase the land. That puts us back at about $2 million that would have to be borrowed, okay? Now, this year, 418,000 generates on a penny. The debt payment on the current stations are right at $250,000 a year. So EMS is paying for this out of the penny. So that's going to leave somewhere about $168,000 of funds left each year out of that penny to go towards the $2 million debt payment, which Mr. Bailey told you $70,000 per penny. That would put us at about $140,000 to borrow $2 million. So I've came up with a way how we can fund this. The other resolution on the Justice Center, we know that you are probably going to have to come, the next commission will have to come up with the funds to either borrow the money or use the money out of the general surplus to do the Justice Center. I'm asking for this resolution to be passed similar to the resolution of the Justice Center, so that when it comes time, then if the bonds need to be issued for EMS to be paying like we're doing to the other stations, I feel like we've got a pretty significant funding source. Or that'll be a decision of the new commission. So I'm open for any questions, and if any questions, Mr. Bailey or Mr. Moses.
You've heard the explanation, Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance, you want this to waive the rule for immediate introduction and adoption?
Well, this is second reading anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you're exactly right. Mr. Vance renews his motion for adoption of item number 8, and seconded by Mr. Jones. Any questions for
Mr. Jones
Mr.
recommends me
Moses
correct
is
the
up here
last reading.
primed to answer questions. Don't ask him the meaning of life, but questions on that. Garrett? Seems there are no questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and it appears the commission is ready to vote on this. When the board opens, cast your vote. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take a vote.
22 yes, 1 abstain, 1 absent.
Having received necessary majority, item number 8, which was on first reading, is adopted. And that completes our old business part of the agenda. We will move on to the new business part of our agenda. And I believe, Mr. Vance, you're recognized on item number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution here is to add Observation Knob Park to section 9 of the budget document in order to use funds donated by the park guests and campers at Observation Knob Park and placed in a donation account to be spent for activities within the park. During this year's 4th of July event that I've done for many years out there, the park out there was taking money, donations from the campers. And I've always kept an account, and I've always paid for the fireworks, and I've paid for all the different stuff. The comptroller's office had recommended that we do this through the county, and everything go through them. We used to call it in and out money. It used to be in and out, so it'd be kept on a general ledger. So what we're trying to do is, going forward, anything at Observation Knob Park that's done, that people want to donate money to any type of activities or anything out there, that will go through the county will track the funds, and the county will pay the vendors or whoever is doing the program. It just makes it a lot cleaner, and I'm tickled to death they're doing it, because that just keeps anybody else from having any questions.
You've
I'm
heard the
gonna ask waiver of
explanation.
rules.
You want, and we have a second by Calvin and Akers. I've got Commissioner Glover, but you do want to suspend the rules, Mark?
I think so. I mean, unless Darlene wants to carry it next month, I won't be here.
No, it's a,
You think we can? Okay, I appreciate it.
Mr. Vance, move we suspend the rules for immediate introduction and adoption of item number 9. Mr. Glover, we're in discussion.
This question is for the sponsor. Commissioner Vance, over the years, this money has been going to you in a special account. Has these checks been made out to you, or how has this been handled in the past?
Okay. Yes, the checks in the past have been made out to me, which I paid to use the park, the shelters and all that. I paid the fee to use it, just like if I was a car show person, if I'm gonna go out to the car show. I pay the park to utilize their facility, and then I get the sponsors, and I'm the one pay for everything to put it on. And I've been doing that, and what it is, it's called Patrons of the Park. It was like campers out there, all agreed together to come together and bring the money to basically, to put on the fireworks, concerts, and so forth like that. I have decided I'm not gonna do that anymore. I would rather see the park manager do that, because I've done it for many, many years, like I said, 7 or 8 years. I just basically wanted to get out of it, not do it anymore. I could do it, just like the volunteer fire department comes out there 421, they have a car show. They raise money and they pay the park to use that facility. So the park is basically getting into, now they're gonna take on a hosting and putting on events out there. So I don't have to do it anymore. But still, if you wanted to come out, you could do an event for the Cattle Association. So I was doing it under the Patrons of the park.
The money you receiving, was it going into the general fund, or was it going
No.
into a
It never
checking
came,
account with your
it
name?
never came to the county whatsoever. It never came to the county. I put my own money into it for many, many years.
How was it ever kept up with? That's the question I'm
I
asking.
kept it in a business account, in my account. Everything was deposited in that account, and I wrote the checks out. I write the checks out to Freedom Fireworks. I write it out to, like the golf cart parade, we gave money, we pay for the bands, everything. I do that. Now the county's gonna be doing it. I'm not gonna do it anymore. Because this year I got out there and we worked ourselves to death, me and my wife, and people just basically, we were out there directing traffic at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I tried to hire constables to come out there to help us with traffic control, and they wanted $32 an hour. So I said no, I didn't have the money to do that. The first year I did this, I bought about $600 worth of hamburgers and hot dogs and sat and cooked to make money to pay for the fireworks show. The fireworks show's $6,000 to $8,000 a time. So basically I told the park manager that I wasn't doing it anymore. And if he wanted to do it, he was gonna have to take it on himself to do it.
Well, this is a county-run park, and I don't know how you justified yourself in doing that.
Do what?
I said, this is a county-run park, and I can't see how you justified yourself into taking those duties on to collect that money, or, you know, like people out there at the 4th of July had the food trucks, and, I mean, how did you come up with setting the fee that they were gonna pay, and how was you gonna come up with the collection? Some of them, you know, could've gave you cash money for these food trucks or this other stuff. I'm just kind of confused of how we used a county park as a fundraising.
Herschel, I just rented the park to put the event on, okay? Just like if I was a car show out there. I could go out and rent the area as a car show. I've never made any money whatsoever out of this whole deal. It's taken a lot of time and money out of my own pocket to get it started. I come up with a budget. I set my own self a budget. You know, I deal with money a lot, finances. So I set myself a budget and say, well, what are we gonna do? We're gonna have fireworks. How much that gonna cost? Then how much is the band's gonna cost? How much is gonna cost for different stuff? And then I come up with a budget. And then what I do is I come up with how much I'm gonna be able to spend out. It's no different if I was the Mustang Club, I wanted to go out there.
I would say that we need to stay on the resolution and the proposal
Are you trying to say something to me, Herschel?
No, I just.
No, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna have any more questions about, we're not gonna have any more
If you
questions
want to
about
question it, we can talk
past
about it
practice.
after we leave here.
Commissioner Morrell, you're,
You can bring your ass on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just kind of get back on the resolution. This would basically allow the park under Section 9, which is being recommended by the Comptroller's Office, to keep any donations, say like a bass tournament or something like that, that would, instead of coming back to the general fund of the county, that would actually go into the parks account fund, be used for improvements and anything like that in the park. Is that correct, Mark?
No, Randy, the Bass Club uses it all the time to do bass tournaments, and they have people sign up their registration fee and they go out. They pay, Chris has got now, the park is paying charging them a fee. We've got a dog event next year out there. We've got a national bass tournament comes out there. He sits and charges them a flat fee just to rent the facility. That money to rent the facility goes back to the county.
Well,
Okay.
that was my question, Mark. I guess I expanded it too far. What I was thinking, like bass tournaments and things like that. But this is just solely kind of connected with the campers.
Right.
Making
This is just
donations
where
to
they're
the
gonna,
park.
yeah, they're gonna put on live comedy, karaoke, bands. Like Labor Day out there, they're supposed to have a band on, Friday night and Saturday night? And they're taking up donations over like that, and now he's handling all the money, and then the county will be writing a check to pay for the bands and all that.
Okay, I was reading more into it, I guess.
Yeah.
than what I
No.
thought.
No,
That's
they'll
all.
still be able to rent the park and charge fees.
Yeah, that's all I was asking. Thank you.
Mr. Crosswhite.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start out by saying I'm sure that Mark has handled these books correctly, but to me, it ought to be coming through, donations should be coming to the county, and the county issuing the checks to whatever vendor there is. There's no doubt about the way you're handling the books. I just think it's a county, we're leasing that property from the TVA, so I think it needs to go through the county.
Okay, I think there's agreement there. There's probably another discussion. Anybody else? Mark,
I'll call for a motion to,
Commissioner Vance renews his motion for immediate introduction and adoption of item number 9, seconded by Commissioner Calter. We've had discussion. When the board opens, cast your vote. Requires 16 votes for passage. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
21 yes, 3 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 9 is adopted. Next up, item number 10, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 10 is a grant appropriation in the amount of $19,968 with no matching local funds. The grant is to be used as required for law enforcement purposes. Any questions, I move passage of item number 10 on waiver of rules.
Commissioner Gardner moves for immediate introduction and adoption of item number 10, seconded by Commissioner Cole. Any discussion? Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, you're ready to vote. When the board opens up, cast your vote on item number 10. Requires 16 votes for passage. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take a vote.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 10 is adopted. Next up, item number 11. Commissioner Glover, you're recognized on item number 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is to amend the approved threshold over which public advertisement and sealed competitive bids or proposals are required. Whereas Sullivan County Commission approved a resolution 2021-06-47 to increase the formal bid threshold of Sullivan County to $25,000, realizing that was in the best interest of the county. And whereas in the past year, since the approval process required documentation, proper vetting of vendors has increased, consuming valuable hours, and how the influx of COVID-19 federal dollars and the additional requirements. It has become necessary to seek for the bid threshold of Sullivan County to be amended to the $50,000 threshold as set forth in 2022 Public Chapter 1016, Title 12, Chapter 3. Now therefore it be resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Sullivan County, Tennessee, assembled in regular session, Section 1, pursuant to the provisions of 2022 Public Chapter 1016, the threshold over which public advertisement and sealed competitive bids or proposals are required in Sullivan County is hereby raised to $50,000 for non-emergency, non-priority purchases. Section 2, pursuant to the provisions of 2022 Public Chapter 1016, the purchasing agent is required to obtain at least 3 written quotations whenever possible for purchases costing less than the bid threshold set over Section 1 but greater than 40% of the bid threshold. Section 3, this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and approval of the public welfare requiring it. The new bid threshold shall apply to all purchases initiated on or after that date. Waiver of rules on this is requested. Ms. Chris Davis brought this forward to us there a week or so ago. This is going to help her tremendously in freeing up some of her employees in her office to do some other things instead of spending a lot of time on one item.
Mr. Glover renews his motion for immediate introduction and adoption of item number 11, second from Commissioner King and others. Floor is open for discussion. Board's open. When the board opens, please cast your vote on item number 11. Requires 16 votes for passage. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received necessary vote, item number 11 is adopted. We're halfway home, folks. Okay, next up, item number 12. Commissioner King and Commissioner Glover, you want to handle that? It's on first reading.
Yes, sir, I can. This resolution is to approve vacating and quitclaiming excess right-of-way along the end of Hudson Road at the intersection of Allison Road and Pine Flats to Tyrone and Holly LaRue and Clifford and Kimberly Hall in exchange for the declaration of the newly constructed Hudson Road extension built by LaRue per plan. I could read this whole resolution to you, but now therefore it be resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Sullivan County, Tennessee, assembled in regular session, hereby abandons the end of the existing Hudson Road and authorizes the county attorney to draft the appropriate quitclaim deeds to the applicants Tyrone and Holly LaRue and Clifford and Kimberly Hall as being adjacent landowners per the plat. Now for it be resolved that the County Commissioners of Sullivan County adopt the new Hudson Road connection segment as illustrated on approved final plat. All of the adjacent property owners signed off on this. If you'll go through each section of the waiver release, all of them's been signed and dated. It was a great improvement to that particular section of road. When you come out and out on Allison Road with all the heavy traffic that's in that area, this is a safer way in and out. And I think the highway department has done some work on this, done a tremendous amount of work with those folks. And I asked for waiver of rules on this so we can go ahead and get it done. And
Mr. Glover renews his motion to waive the rule for the immediate introduction and adoption of item number 12, stated by Commissioner King. You've heard the explanation. Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, you're ready to vote. When the board opens, cast your vote on item number 12. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take a vote.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 12 is adopted. Next up, item number 13. Commissioner Akers, you're recognized on item number 13.
Thank you, Chairman. As I've mentioned a couple of meetings prior, that this would be coming tonight to vote on waiver of rules. And as a couple of our commissioners have mentioned, about this being our last meeting for everybody, we approved this TIF in October unanimously. And so I felt like it was our responsibility to vote on the amended TIF for going from 15 years to 20 years, from 1.7 to 2.1. And in all reality, it may or may not ever hit that, but when developer, Danny's here, Joel's, you know, a lawyer from, that does the TIFs, and Steve Cyphers from Bristol Housing Authority. There ended up being a little, some other issues with that piece of property on some back taxes, so yay, we're getting paid on it. And then some infrastructure problems, that it was a campground, and the infrastructure for electrical on campgrounds is completely different from what you need for housing. And so we worked with BTS and came up with the right number. This does not make anybody whole, but it helps get this project ready to go. And I know, as we've done with many of them with Danny, he's does them well. We're excited for this project in Bristol. So we do need waiver of rules, and I appreciate y'all's support and everything.
You've heard the explanation. Commissioner Cross, you're recognized.
I'd like to be added as co-sponsor.
Yes, I apologize. It's been a busy time, and I know Andrew was at school and trying to get with him. So yes, please add Commissioner Cross as a co-sponsor.
Without objection.
And everybody who votes in the affirmative, I would appreciate it and everything.
Without objection. I'm looking for discussion. Any questions for the sponsor or the developer? Seeing none, appears you're ready to vote. When the board opens, cast your vote on item number 13. Has everyone voted? Barry, you have voted. Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
22 yes, 2 absent.
Item 13 is hereby adopted. Next up, item number 14. Commissioner Glover, you're recognized on item number 14.
Mr. Chairman, this resolution is to encourage the Sullivan County Department of Education to include an increase in funding for their support staff by $700,000 that will provide these employees a total of 5% raise with other county employees of the general highway and other miscellaneous funds. I'm not going through all the resolution with you, but I did read a letter back a month ago from the support staff. I would be happy to read that letter again. This was given to me from folks on that support staff. We, the Sullivan County Department of Education support staff, write this letter out of strong disappointment of the actions and decisions taken by the Sullivan County Board of Education and Director of Schools relating to the board's approval to give support staff a 1% pay increase. This disappointment was compounded by the fact that the BOE felt compelled to give coaches voluntary roles a pay increase without first taking care of the full-time support staff employees. Despite our voices to be heard, we asked the Sullivan County Commission to formally review and address the actions taken by the Sullivan County Board of Education and Director. The past decade, as support staff members, we have been told numerous times we will take care of you next year. As support staff members, we had high hopes for the year 2022, as we were told numerous times by supervisors and the director was quoted in the news article, "We are going to take care of you this year." Unfortunately, we have yet been failed once again by the Board of Education. Teachers received a 10 to 15% pay increase last year. Support staff did not even receive the 5% county raise. We, as support staff members, are saddened by the lack of support for our roles received. Our members hold essential trade skills and varying formal education degrees in their field, deserving the attention of BOE and the Director of Schools. Every support staff member is critical in maintaining the school's infrastructure and ensure safe facilities for our students. Neighboring school districts' pay scales for similar positions are also not comparable based on the responsibilities and job requirements. Currently being asked of our support staff, please help us have a voice in these decisions that affect us and our families on a daily basis. I do have a pay scale here for those folks. Starting pay is $10.37 an hour. Second year is $11.03 an hour. Talked to one person, this 1% raise this year, added on to his hourly wage is a 10-cent increase.
You heard the explanation. We have a list. Commissioner Vance, you're recognized.
Herschel, I'd just like to ask a question. During the budget proceedings this year, and the school presented their budget to the county commission and at the committees, was there any time during the budget proceeds you ever asked or made a recommendation to the school department to look at the pay of their employees as this resolution? We sat back there, and we sat back there in the budget committee, and we went to each one of the department heads and elected officials that came to us. We asked them to work with the council and budget director to look at the pay of their employees and bring back the figure to the budget committee to be put in the final budget for consideration for pay increases. Did you ever make a recommendation while we were going through the budget proceedings?
I didn't feel like I needed to when the folks were told that they were going to be took care of. And I think Mr. Bailey asked that question also, and we were told numerous times that we will take care of you next year, this year.
Well, I mean, here's another feel-good resolution that probably won't come to material of anything being done. And it's also another way to push back on the school department, as you've done before, by resolution trying to get them to give raises to their employees. It's another micromanagement way of us trying to micromanage the school system. So if we vote to do this, it really doesn't do anything. If the school board don't want to do it, they're not going to do it, they don't have to do it. But they can come back and say that they tried to do it, but the county didn't give them the money to fund it. And that's what they're going to do.
Mr. Vance, we funded the school department $1.1 million above maintenance of effort, so they have the money. Am I correct by saying that, Mr. Bailey?
Excuse me, they have a fund balance that exceeds the 3%, or based upon what their statement was when they made their budget presentation of having then projected 7%, and then there's a couple other factors, if they come to fruition, which they have, would be increasing it from there at least another couple of $1 million.
At this point in time, what would you say their total fund balance would be?
That's difficult to say because the records aren't completely closed at this point, and with some things that have come to light lately, there might be other surprises. I don't think there is. I think that they will have a fund balance of, I hate to say, I would think well in excess of $10 million.
Did you say 10?
Yes.
Okay, ask and answer. Commissioner Gardner, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for the sponsor. Commissioner Glover, the employees that you're talking about, the ones that this resolution would affect the most, are they directly employed by the Department of Education, or are they Sullivan County general employees?
They are directly employees of the school department.
They work for the Department of Education.
School maintenance, janitors, custodians, folks at our schools every day.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was gonna be my question to Larry, was how much is their fund balance? Could I ask Chairman Jones to come to the podium past him?
Well, I think that's a question for Mr. Bailey. But if you want to call Chairman Jones to testify on this, you're welcome to do that.
Mr. Bailey didn't know.
Yes, he did. He said 10.
Okay, let's,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I thought I gave an answer, but if you'd like to call Mr. Jones up, we'll be happy to do
I'm
that.
sorry, I did not understand.
Hey,
I thought he said he didn't
I
know.
understand that thoroughly. I've got these plugs in my ears. So you're satisfied with that, Nancy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner George, you're recognized.
Thank you. Commissioner Glover, when you mentioned the pay scale, do you have the report on what those jobs in neighboring counties pay? Are we high, low? Do we know where we are compared with the employee thing? I mean, does 5% put us over what the other counties are paying? Are we still under? Do you have that
I don't have
statistic?
anything from the other counties, no ma'am.
Okay,
I do have, I can provide you with the,
what they're making, and I
what they're
understand
making
that.
now.
And I understand that, but in looking at, I mean, I assume that when we look at where our employees should be, I mean, obviously, we love everybody in the world to get great salaries, but we have to look at what's in line with taxpayer money, what other areas are paying. And if we are in line with what other counties are paying, and if we're not in line, normally it means we have no workers and we can't hire anybody because we're below what is needed. And I would like to have some data to actually base this number on, but also, and I understand that the school has a fund balance. What we're asking them to do is commit $700,000 per year until they run out of the fund balance. I mean, basically, I mean, this is not a one-time expense.
No ma'am.
This is something that we are saying that from now on, you have to adjust your budget and dip into your fund balance for the remainder of forever, and these will continue to go up. So in doing that, and when we're going to say that we believe so strongly that these people should be funded and they deserve these funds, that we want you to commit your fund balance to fund them, would you agree to an amendment that the county commission pay the first year to show how serious that we are about this? And that we should go in and say, we will do this the first year? That gives you time to get your budget in order to pay for the rest of the year?
We can't do that, Ms. George, because that is micromanaging. We did give them 1.1 million above maintenance of effort, so they have the money. We've already given the money to do it with.
Maintenance of effort is a number that the state says, if all your kids are evenly distributed and you have this many in every single grade and every school is totally efficient 100%, this should fund your children. And that's never the situation, because we have some schools that have more kids, we have some classes that have more kids, we have so many more special needs. So maintenance of effort is a great number, but it doesn't mean it balances their budget. They have to look at the payroll and maintenance of effort. If we're paying people higher than what the state does, and we're paying positions higher, then this is micromanaging their budget by telling them how to do their thing. So, I'm struggling when we don't have the data to make these decisions. We're micromanaging without data, but I do feel that this is micromanaging the school system.
Would you work for $10.37 an hour?
I have worked for a lot less in the past.
That's in the past. We're in the future now with
And
gas at $4 a gallon and inflation and all that. Listen, Miss George, these folks have approached me.
I'm not saying these people don't deserve a certain salary. I'm just saying without looking at what these positions pay and what each person looks at, I mean, there are people working for a lot less than that. Is it great? No. But you're telling the school how to manage their budget.
When all your other county employees got a 5% raise and you got a 1% raise, wouldn't you have a problem with that too?
If I work, I mean, you're working, if my office pays somebody, I mean, who we manage is the employees of the Sullivan County on our side of the budget. The school gets their side. The other county, each elected officer, the sheriff's department came in and did theirs. We don't go and tell them what they have to do for everybody. They came in and asked, and we did what we could. I just feel that, in my opinion, that this was the school's decision, and the people, they have a complaint, they need to take it to the school, and they need to stay on their commissioners to take care of them. I think we're overstepping if we're gonna start telling the sheriff's department and telling each office that they are required to spend so much of their fund balance for employee salaries. If these, and people can quit, and if they do quit, then the school will have to deal with it, because that's their issue.
Well, I would understand it if they didn't have the money, but they do have the money, and these folks need the money. So if you don't want to vote yes, that's your decision.
believe Commissioner Starnes, you're up next.
Did you mean for this to be, include teacher assistants too?
Teacher assistants or support staff?
Yes.
Yes.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a clarification, are the employees in question full-time employees or contracted, outside contractors?
Full-time employees.
All right, thanks, sir.
Commissioner Morrell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm one of the co-sponsors on this, and, you know, I certainly want to see these folks, you know, get more than 1% raise, but, you know, maybe we should have asked the school department, you know, what their opinion of this was. And Ms. Rafalowski and Mr. Jones are here. I'd like to hear their comments on it.
If you're asking them to come up, I'm welcome them
Yes,
to do that.
Yes, sir, I am.
If they want to share an opinion with us. We'll recess while we hear from our chairman and our director. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. We just finished a 4-hour board meeting. When our budget was prepared this year, we prepared it with the numbers that were given to us by the finance director, Mr. Bailey. And as we went through the budget, we were able to give excuse me, all individuals a 1% pay raise. We took a look at coaching supplements, we took a look at our teaching salaries, and we took a look also at our part-time employees as well as full-time support staff. One of the goals that we had this year as we dealt with the support staff and looking at teacher assistants, our teacher assistants have been paid for years at the beginning pay scale, which was slightly above $10. They did not gain experience for any step above that first year. So if you worked 10 years, you were still paid on step 1. When we got to looking at that this year, we made a change and they were given credit for their 10 steps. So someone who had been making $10.61 an hour went up with 10 years experience to $13.91. That's $3.30 pay raise for those individuals. So several individuals did get a good pay raise. Others did not. We also looked at the various lanes that we have for employees, and we had about 20 lanes for the support staff to be paid in. This year we changed that to 10, so we were able to reclassify some people, and we're still in the process of reclassifying. It's not a matter of not giving them the raise, it's a matter of not having the money to do it. When we got through looking at the required minimum fund balance that we had, 3% above what we had to look at last year, and we had $8 million committed for our budget 21-22. So as we had that $8 million committed, we could not use it for this year. So we take that $8 million out, and then we took 3% of what we had to have, and that left us with slightly above $100,000 above what we had to have as a minimum. That's one of the reasons that we cut the Innovation Academy this year, because it was going to cost us approximately $400,000 to operate the Innovation Academy. It was cut for that reason. We wanted to give our teachers a 2% pay raise, but each 1% was $480,000, so the money was not there. Do we have $10 million in the fund balance? I don't know. That changes kind of on a weekly basis. I think we have at least $7 million. But you got to realize that we're spending almost $7 million in our fund balance to balance the budget this year. And I stood here in this same podium last year and heard you tell us that you don't need and you cannot spend money for recurring expenses. Matter of fact, you brushed me over the coals pretty good for that, Mr. Glover, of saying you can't spend it for recurring expenses. Here tonight, you're sponsoring a resolution that says you've got to pay support staff more money. We totally agree with that. Next month at our school board meeting, I will have prepared a resolution, if this passes tonight, where we totally agree with you in context, and then we will ask the county commission then to fund that out of the fund balance. And it would require 2 sponsors, and I will ask 2 county commissioners to come on board and sponsor that resolution, bring it back, asking you to pay for it out of your fund balance as you've done for the others. So it's important to us, but it's also important to our people. It's time to work together on this. No one even approached me or asked any questions prior to hearing last week at the approval of the budget that you were going to ask for this.
What was the percentage of supplement you gave the coaches?
It varied, and what we did, we looked at the coaches supplements for Sullivan County, Kingsport, Bristol, Johnson City, Hawkins County, and we were able to change each one of them. They have a different percentage for various coaches. Some of them got 10%, some of them got 5%, some of them got 2%. It varied for different ones. Head coaches got more. But they're not equal to Kingsport. They're not anywhere near equal to Johnson City on coaches supplements. And I can tell you that the basketball head coach at Hawkins County was making much more than our basketball coach, and they still are. But at least we took the average. We went through and took an average for the counties that I just mentioned, like we did for teachers last year. And when it comes to educational assistants and when it comes to other support staff, there's no way that you can classify things equal, because you'll find that a carpenter in one area is listed in one lane, and in a different school system, they're listed in a different lane. And that's what we're trying to get a handle on now. I'm more familiar with what Bristol does than I am with what Sullivan County does, because I know I worked on that salary schedule 15 years ago, and if you look at it, you'll see if you're a mechanic, you know which lane you're in. If you are a HVAC person, you know which lane you're in. If you are a support person as a teacher assistant, you know which lane you're in. And that's what we have here. I have here on my phone our salary schedule. I have here on my phone Bristol's salary schedule. And you'll find that a teacher assistant in Bristol does make $1.30 more an hour as a beginning teacher assistant than one in Sullivan County.
Why did you feel like giving the coaches that extra supplement instead of giving it to support staff was more important?
Coaches have been on the same pay scale for many, many years.
They got a raise this past year when we done the.
They did not get a raise in their supplement. Coaches are paid for teaching because they are a teacher first. They're paid a supplement as a coach. And that coach requires lots of extra hours above and beyond. And if you took the hourly wage that a teacher assistant is making and applied it to coaching, you would find that they're still underpaid. Our coaches work hard. They work many hours during the summer, free. They work for a coaching supplement, some of them $500 for a whole year or for a whole season. It's not like that they're being paid by the hour. No coach is paid by the hour. They're paid a supplement that goes with the coaching responsibilities, whether it's a head coach or it's assistant coach. In some cases, we didn't have assistant coaches in some areas where we had a need. Swimming was one of those. And we've worked hard this year to try to make sure that we have assistant coaches in all areas, and we advertise for those. But we're still not equal with some of the higher paying school systems around. We have teachers who leave coaching with us and go to another system because they get a better supplement. Sometimes they even get an extra month's pay to go with it, not just a supplement. But if you look at what we have a supplement with all of our categories, except I think 2 head coaches or 2 head coaching positions get an extra month of pay that goes with it because they work during the summer.
Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Glover, I appreciate you staying here tonight and you, Director Rafalowski, and being willing to answer questions. I kind of see my job as chairman is to keep the discussion on the resolution. And this is really not about pay. It's encouraging. It's not a directing or anything of that nature.
I understand that it's encouraged, and I understand that it's not directing, but I also know that when it goes out in the newspaper tomorrow morning that you pass a resolution about salary schedules and that you support it, then we're the ones who catch the brunt of you didn't give it to us.
Well, I think you just gave a good explanation. We hope that's in the paper.
It will, I'm sure it will be, but again, next month, if it passes tonight, my resolution will go to the board asking them to come back to the county commission, and I hate to put it on a new county commission because there'll be 10 new commissioners here next month, or some of you returning, but there's 10 above and beyond what's here. And I hate to put the monkey on their back, but it will come back with 2 sponsors asking for it to be paid out of Sullivan County's fund balance. And we know that you just said tonight, I think it's a $420,000 at each penny of tax costs. You're talking about $700,000, which is almost 2 cents on a property tax that it would increase. We have the same goal in mind, and that's to increase the teacher salaries. It's also to increase support staff salaries. And the other thing that no one bothered to mention, you have 3 budgets that come before you. You have a federal budget, you have a school nutrition budget, and you have a general purpose budget from the school system. When we start putting together a federal budget for the school system, we have to take the federal money that comes in and pay the salaries. And if we had to make an adjustment now, Then there's a shortfall in the federal budget, and how do we come up with a shortfall? We gotta cut staff, because we've already cut as much as we can. If you had to find $30,000 in the federal budget, you can look at two things. You can look at salaries, or you can look at supplies, and one of the two has to go. So you're making an adjustment now. That adjustment should have been made early in the year if there was strong support for that. But we didn't come and ask for more money. We took what Mr. Bailey gave us when it came to what the revenue projections were for this year, both property tax and sales tax.
Anybody have any further questions for the chairman of our school board or Ms. Rafalowski? They're nice enough to come here. Commissioner Starnes, a question for the director. Okay.
Mr. Jones, explain to me that again about the credit for the first year through 10. I'm sorry.
If state aid, if you had been working with us before, the starting salary this year is $10.61. I think last year it was $10.37. I heard you use an old salary schedule, Mr. Glover, but it's $10.61. If you work 10 years, you still make $10.61. But that's not the case now. What we have done, we've gone back and given them credit for each year that they've been with us. And we've even gone up to, I think there's 14 steps, and then we added a step on step 20, step 25, and step 30.
Okay.
And we had some people who got some decent pay raises this year. Not everybody did, and we know that. We're also looking at reclassifying some people to try to improve their salaries.
Okay.
We also said when we passed the budget, we said we'll take a look at giving a bonus this year if money permits us to do that. There was no guarantee of that, but that's what we said in the school board meeting when we went through our budget process. But that was when money was available. But we had to cut the Innovation Academy, we had to cut some other areas that were important to us because the money was not available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Jones, the way that the resolution reads is this will be coming out of your reserves. So once you use this money, this is a reoccurring expense.
It's reoccurring money. You're committing $700,000 this year out of the fund balance. You're committing $700,000 for the future out of this. And this time next year, if we were to put this in and spend $700,000 this year and come back and spend $700,000 this year, then we would be looking at trying to cut positions to make up that $700,000. It takes 10 teaching positions to make up $700,000. We calculate teaching salaries at $70,000 a person because the beginning salary might be $42,000, but by the time you add in the benefits, you're looking at $70,000. So where do you think?
I'm all for teachers getting a raise and your support staff getting a raise. By all means, I will make that clear. But I'm not for spending reoccurring expenses out of your reserve fund.
Next year, we'll be coming back looking for the $700,000, and someone is going to say, that's a 2-cent tax increase that the school board cost us. And that's not fair. Because right now, if you took the fund balance that you're spending, Sullivan County is spending $8 million, I think, of your fund balance this year. $8 million is equal to a 18-cent sales tax or property tax increase. But you committed $8 million a year. Where are you going to find $8 million next year? You're asking us to commit 70,000 or 700,000 hours. Where are we going to find it? You asked for it.
I think this commission can handle this budget. We expect a budget from you.
And we provided that.
If next year, if you decided to give a raise, you would include that raise in your continuing expenses.
And we will provide.
Everybody says that we'll take it out of fund balance next year. That's not the way you budget. You know it.
We will provide you with a budget based on the revenue that is projected, just like we did this year.
Yeah, hypothetically, if you did this, you would put it in personnel expense next year, hypothetically.
I understand that, but the money is more than hypothetics because we know where the numbers are.
Yeah. Well, again, and I don't want to be argumentative because I appreciate the information you give us, Mr. Chairman, but I think there is some confusion about how this would be handled, and I want to clear that up. Anybody got any other questions? Angie, did you get your question answered?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Thank
Anybody else got questions? Doesn't seem to be. Thank you all for hanging around. Appreciate it. Want to renew your motion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Glover renews his motion on item number 14, seconded by Commissioner King and others. I'm going to recognize you, Randy. Look, I've got a screen up here. I've got stuff to read here, and I've got a thing over here. So if I don't react as quickly sometime as they all like, I'm sorry. You might want to look for another one. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say, I'm requesting that my name be taken out here as a co-sponsor.
Yes, sir.
Without objection.
No problem.
I just believe that we probably need to work with the school department a little bit more. We want all those folks to get a raise, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Without objection, I didn't see you on the list, but remove Commissioner Morel as co-sponsor of item number 14. Any further questions? Board's empty. I believe you're ready to vote. Commissioner Glover renews his motion for immediate introduction and adoption of item number 14. Everyone voted. Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
9 yes, 1 abstain, 12 no, and 2 absent.
The failure to receive a necessary majority, item number 14 fails. I have generally said that I don't expect you to set more than 2 hours. You've been setting 2 hours, so, and I appreciate you people who have stayed with us, and we got a few left, but I don't think it's even healthy to set more than 2 hours. 10 minutes. 25 minutes after, we're going to, 10 minutes, 21 minutes.
We'll get there, guys. Still here, huh?